Welcome back. I'm Jocelyn Bamford. My guest today is Bryan Gould, CEO of Aspen Leaf Energy, and we're talking about Western alienation. Bryan, let's talk about where does all this angst come from?
So I would say the angst in part comes from just the numbers as we discussed with equalization. There's a lot of frustration that the formulas are not fair and that Western Canadians pay a disproportionate amount into the system for not enough coming out. And then there's this added frustration of what I'll call lack of respect and appreciation for the goods and the vital goods that we produce for the country in terms of energy, uh, the importance of our sector to the economy. Oil and gas are far and away the largest exports, which underpin the value of the Canadian dollar, which gives everyone here purchasing power to buy your food, to go on your vacations, etc. And so there's great, and it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like you're one team when what you do, which is so vital, is not just not respected, but it's vilified. And then there are the barriers that impede the development of our natural resources, most notably building pipelines so we can get export capacity so that we're not subject to just entirely to tariffs from the United States. So allowing our products to go to market, which is good for the entire world. It's good for the Canadian economy. It's good for human flourishing. And so you can, I hope, imagine this growing frustration that what we do is not respected, we're not listened to, and it feels like, frankly, a toxic relationship. And people talk about Team Canada, but from a perspective of where we live, it doesn't feel like a team, right?
Certainly can notice a stark difference when you look in Ontario and they talk about automotive manufacturing and how important it is, and it doesn't seem that Alberta gets the same respect in the resource sector. But let's talk about a recent Canadian poll where a growing number of Canadians feel that Alberta just wants to secede from Canada. Can you talk about that? You're on the ground in Alberta. What are you hearing there?
Right. So I grew up in Toronto, just for the record, and I'm still a Maple Leafs fan. So, um, but what I hear on the ground is, for the most part, people want Canada to work. They're loyal to Canada. We're passionate about Canada, and most of the conversation is about what would it take to make Canada function more effectively as a true team. That is most of the conversation. There are those that think it is a lost cause, but I would suggest to you that the conversation saying here, those that support separatism, and by the way, they're entitled to that view, in my opinion, they do so out of sheer frustration and a view that it's a lost cause and there's just no point anymore. But most people that I talk to are interested in finding ways to make Canada work. And I know this is pinned as an Alberta problem, but I would suggest to you that the alienation is very widespread across the West, probably extending into Northwestern Ontario, and it goes all the way through the prairies and well into British Columbia. So I know this gets pinned as those Albertans, but this is a much broader, deeper challenge than just a bunch of Albertans.
Okay. Premier Danielle Smith talks about a sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. What does that mean?
I think that means, in simple terms, abiding by the Constitution as it was envisaged when the country was set up. And that means the federal government staying in its lane, dealing with federal issues, and leaving the jurisdiction on natural resources, healthcare, education, municipal affairs to the provinces where that belongs. And so my understanding is that's, at a high level, what sovereignty looks like within a united Canada.
So basically, keeping the jurisdictions as they were originally intended, and really, when you think about that, it's a fundamental issue of how we operate as Canada. So, what would you like to tell people in Eastern Canada? And we just have 30 seconds about the separatist movement and the desire of folks in Alberta to remain in Canada.
So I'm a believer in dialogue, and what I would suggest is we need to sit down to have more conversations like this, understand each other's perspective, and I'm convinced that there are solution spaces in here, but it only comes with respectful dialogue.
Well, we need to go to break. We'll be back and we'll continue this conversation after the commercial.